Welcome to Visible Voices. My name is Sita Moanan Melini. This is our first episode. With yesterday being President's Day, we thought it might be a interesting, maybe feisty topic to talk about Trump and all of the exciting happenings that come along with that subject. We're also different, and so I'm excited to see just kind of where it goes and to get into it. And so, what do you guys think? It's a broad topic. So, I mean, what happened most recently? The impeachment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The impeachment. People want him out of there, and
Who? People.
yeah. And what do you guys? I don't know. What are your thoughts? Yes, thoughts.
Moana?
It's he.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
Oh, my thoughts. Well, he was recently acquitted, so
True.
impeachment trial went through and he was acquitted.
Yeah.
Were you surprised? Were you expecting him to be fully
Yes.
impeached? What were your guys'
Reactions.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it wasn't a surprise given who's in the Senate, how the votes went. I think Mitt Romney vote, especially being here from Utah, that was last minute surprise. But yeah, I think right now as the acquittal's happening, or the acquittal has happened, I think it's really interesting to see what's been happening post-trial. You know, a lot of retribution, a lot of, what does that send, what message does that send to the general public when people can't speak or participate in like our constitutional right to testify, and then Trump 45th just, it's like a vindictive, right? Like just revenge. I don't think that's very good for government if people feel like they can't contribute to a democracy and feel like they would be punished afterwards.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you break it down for me just a little bit because
I'm like, here I am. I'm like, you guys asked me and I went.
Yes, no, I love it.
Because at the same time, you're kind of educating. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm just totally ignorant on the topic.
Yeah,
but
no, it's not ignorant. I feel like
I like what you're saying because I'm learning.
Well, that's the thing
right
is like
now
I
as we're
feel like
speaking.
government is it's so textured to where like the normal person, I like policy, so like it's something that I tune into. You know what I mean? Like I'm the
majored
weirdo.
in that, right?
Yeah, I majored. So I did social sci with a field of study in government. So I feel like I'm always
This
into.
is your
your
wheelhouse.
Exactly.
So this is why you wanted to do this.
Yeah, no. I'm just like laughing because everyone asks me, and I'm like, do you really want to hear my answer? But yeah. So I just feel like I'm the type that really, really loves that. I look at it as like a sport, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
no,
like
I can appreciate that for sure. So let's pretend. Okay, no, let's not. I'm gonna ask for a friend.
Okay.
Who doesn't know anything?
For a friend. But the friend has the same questions.
The friend has the same name as I do. Okay.
No, I feel like, well, it's crazy because so I'm a national, right? So I can't really participate in voting.
Okay, what?
Yeah. So bringing it back to like,
That's
so
crazy.
I'm Samoan.
Yeah.
I was born in Tutuila, so I was born in an American territory. We're the only territory that doesn't get U.S.
Okay, I thought they
citizenship.
just recently changed that.
Yeah, no, there was a case in the Supreme Court about it, but yeah, so for me, I'm like in this limbo of like, can't really participate as a voter, but I am,
awesome.
because of the history
Right.
that America has had in our islands, So I'm always interested as just a participant and a community member. I know there's this huge like gap in between thinking like, how does the federal government affect me?
Yeah.
But it affects everyone, right? And so like, I'm just always interested to see how like what happens in the White House does have consequences in our own neighborhoods.
Right.
Maybe it's not as visible as other things, but yeah.
100%. I love that. So for the impeachment,
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Like, just break it down. Like
Did
you know
he,
what I
like,
mean? Like
lie
really
about
primary.
something?
Yeah. Why did that happen? And or like, why do you think that it was all legitimate? Do you think that it was? Because I know that was a lot of the right. That's a lot of
like
the,
whether it was a
If he really
legitimate,
did it or not.
right.
I think so. The impeachment was just like a lot of stuff leading up to that point, but basically an impeachment trial is putting the president on trial. Before they can even put him on trial, they have to have the Senate and the Congress have to decide whether he should be prosecuted, right? And so it's like you have the three branches.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
of government.
Gotcha.
And so it's checks and balances, and then
Oh my
Trump.
gosh, you're taking me back.
Yeah, no, that's what I was like.
Dang it, I
And this
should've
episode will
listened
be
to
the least tuned in. Yeah, no, it just, so it was just basically, there was a lot of.
What was
just
the
a lot
basis of
The basis was the election, but everything that happened
Okay.
afterwards. So like the fact that like a foreign government interfered with our voting system, which is, you know, that's not good on any level. Like that's not good on any level that happens.
Okay.
And so, but with Trump, it's like there was a question whether he had. Short and long of it is that basically there's shady dealings, and they were trying to get to the bottom of if he was asking another country to perform acts as a favor, quid pro quo, which
Right.
is basically
If you
like
do for me,
yeah, if you
I'll
do
do
for
for
me, I'll do
you.
for you, which is like that's illegal.
illegal
It's illegal
on
It's like
every level.
so wherever you
Not just
fall
at the
on that
highest.
spectrum, it's like it's illegal. But
Yeah.
so that came into light, and because of all of that, it just kind of snowballed. But before you can even go to trial, Senate has to approve that there was a crime that happened. And I don't
Right.
think there's a question of whether a crime happened. I think it's just whether he should have been prosecuted for it. And so they didn't vote to impeach him.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
'cause you can be impeached, but you don't have. There's instances where the president hasn't been kicked out of office. So it's just basically like, is the president guilty? And it's a court system for those powers. Yeah. And
did they
again-
even have evidence that he did it?
Yeah.
Oh, they
Yeah.
did?
Yeah, I think they. Yeah.
So it was just the Senate is what majority
Republican.
and
Yeah.
so they all voted.
Yeah,
that
and
he
I think
just
they
stay.
were short 2 votes
Oh,
to
really?
fully impeach. Yeah, and then that was what was so crazy is, what I think is really interesting living here in Utah is that Mitt Romney, a Republican senator, is the one that voted with
Yeah.
the Democrats. But
Right.
going back to like Trump's response to that, which is like, that's not good governance in a state that's so religiously based for a president to like out a senator and say that like, not out a senator, but like kind of attack him and say that he used his religion as a crutch for why he voted the way he did.
Yeah.
When it's like, okay, like
So-
this country was built on religious freedom. you know?
Right.
And like, what does that mean if we're like attacking representatives
The thing
from
is,
a state?
who does the president
Right.
not attack? He literally
I
attacks
know, he's trash.
everybody. I actually don't
trash.
hate him at all. I actually like that he just goes ahead and speaks his mind. Sometimes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's not everybody's cup of tea. This is my thing about Mitt Romney, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is I really do feel like he used his religion to kind of sway a lot of us members to like I watched his speech. He said things like he had a responsibility to he was under oath and he had a responsibility to God to to stand up for what is right. And my thing with Mitt Romney is he's so all over the place that I couldn't like I didn't want to hear anything he had to say just because like he has a responsibility to God. Have that responsibility all the time. He didn't have that responsibility. He didn't feel that responsibility to God when he was pro-abortion or when he had a hand in having the Olympics come to Utah and he did like shady deals to like he was condemning the president for something that he once did himself. And that's what I didn't like so much about Mitt Romney is that he was going after the president for something that to me he once did. And my thing is like, okay, you're about God this time, but you weren't that before. Like, pick a side and stick to that side. That's just my thoughts and what I've seen with Mitt Romney, because I did vote for him when he was running with Obama. But as I've come to know the guy even more, I love his family. He has a beautiful family. But I just getting to know more of what he's stood for in the past, and maybe he's changed now. It's like he picks and chooses when he wants to be on God's side and then not be. and that was my thing with him.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
don't
can
know.
understand that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Say it, Mona.
No, I'm not. No, because I didn't vote. I mean, like, I wasn't here. No, I'm curious to, like, what is your perspective of, like, so would you like a candidate, not necessarily as a blank slate, but, like, yeah, because, like, I feel like a lot of politicians right now, they say one thing, but they're doing another.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
I think that's
like,
all of them.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
no, I'm like, it's both sides,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like, the Democrats and the Republicans both have this idea of, like, you say something on a platform that everyone hears, but
Yeah.
the way you vote doesn't match, you
Yeah.
know, your supposed values. But would you say that that's the same? How would I frame this? Do you feel like the 45th president is the same way? Like, he says things, and like it doesn't match what he has said in the past, or
Yeah.
like, what are your perspective on that? 'Cause I feel like,
Processing.
yeah.
Buffering. Go ahead.
I love that
Yeah,
buffering.
I love what you say about Mitt Romney, and I can totally sympathize with that. But I think, like, for me, I don't know, on just like a human level, especially as someone who has done a lot of changing. Honestly, like, if you talk to people that I went to high school with, they would not
You're totally-
recognize
Yeah.
the,
You got me.
the person that I am right now. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really sympathetic to when it comes to like people
Changing,
switching
yeah.
positions on things. I can totally understand like saying
No,
one thing and then
politicians should be perfect.
They're like, all right.
but I think
You enter.
but I do think on some level that yeah, you're held to a certain standard when you're at when you
you're
have
right.
a certain platform, and you're accountable for some of the things that you say, and you should be. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And so Sita in high school is definitely
Yeah.
different than
You're
Mitt
right.
Romney running for the
you're right.
know
No, but
the
I feel-
president
I
of the
love
United
that.
I get
States.
what you
Yeah.
mean. I get what you mean.
But like when it comes to like flip flopping, I know that a lot of people have issues with that. That one thing in particular is not something that bothers me. And I mean, just taking Mitt Romney's just kind of approach at face value in general, I can 100% appreciate someone who just feels like they're doing what they feel is right at that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
like
despite how hard it is.
Yeah.
Like, and despite whether or not I agree with what they're doing, I can respect someone who just is doing it.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's a lot to
You're
step
right.
outside of your party and like
it is.
to
Outside
like
of your
vote
vote
again.
It
Yeah,
is.
to like
I have to give that to him because he voted against the party, the president, and all
yeah,
of the same party.
and he's gotten so much
Yeah.
flack for it
Yeah.
from the people that that was his people.
yeah.
But I don't. With the impeachment and everything, though, and Trump, you know what's interesting? The people, my family, most of my family, I won't name names, but most of them, and by most, I mean every single person who was willing to talk about it with me, every single person that I talked to, they voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And
I don't understand.
Yeah,
it. Make
no,
it make
they voted
sense.
for
No, make it make sense for me.
I-
No, because
Yeah.
like it's crazy because I feel the same like with Samoans and like a lot of the PI
Conservative.
population is like
We
they
all
voted
support
for and it's curious
Well,
to
can
me.
I
'cause
ask
it
you
goes-
why
yeah.
it doesn't make sense to you?
So it's just one of these things like this dude has had like a really long history of like people, I guess like my issue or like what I don't really find is like going back to like your actions don't align with what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so like for him to be so adamant of being like this businessman, which I think a lot of
Yeah.
people were excited about, and I get that, right? Just because like DC has been broken and that was before
Right.
Trump had come in, right? So
Right,
it's like,
right.
yeah, I understand like the growing gap between that, but everyone praises him for this businessman, and like that's not necessarily true, right? So it's like he's built this platform off of what people assume he did, right? Like it's a difference between like someone who has like this whole like pull yourself from the bootstraps, like that's not real in a sense, but like for him it's like of course you can be a good businessman if you get like millions of dollars of loans from like your dad, and it's just like really shady. Like there's just a lot of things that I feel like on a basic level, someone who is like has nieces and nephews who are brown face. I have a younger brother, but like he has consistently shown that he doesn't care for people of color in certain policy senses, and like the power of platforms, right? Like thinking about the 5 young gentlemen who were prosecuted and thrown in jail because
Yes.
he took out, he took out the front page of like the New York Times to encourage this idea of like guilty before proven innocent, you know? And so there's like all these things that he's done.
When did
Yeah,
that?
there's just
I
like a
remember
lot.
hearing about that 5. When would that happen?
Yeah, the Central Park 5.
Yeah, right.
So that was like early 90s.
Yeah, see, and
or
that's
like
the
not
thing.
even early 90s. Sorry, this was like 80s.
Yeah.
But like,
And they
to
were
see
recently
how
exonerated.
and like it's just
Isn't
not
that
good
the one
business
on
practices.
Netflix, that
Yeah,
show?
they made a series about
Yeah,
it.
It was awesome.
I didn't
cried.
watch it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either.
Yeah,
It was really sad. But
Yeah.
anyway, I watched
It was,
it all.
yeah.
But
yeah.
there's things like that, like where it's just like what he says and like what people praise him for doing is, it's not necessarily like
Based in fact.
based in fact,
like
right?
it didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
Like the person they praised this guy to be, and all the reasons they praised him for just didn't actually
happen, you know, and like his whole dealings, even with his own family. Like I'm really close to my family, and I feel like a lot of PIs are like very family based, and like
Right.
like all of the history of him, essentially on his dad's deathbed, trying to like have his dad sign over the empire to him. Like there's just things where it's like that doesn't make for a good, I think, decision maker.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things where it's just based in ignorance, I think, you know, like he had a lot of dealings with tribes too,
Right.
and like how that affects an entire culture and an entire people, because you put these false narratives out, and like, yeah, there's just things where I just don't think morally is correct. And so how
Right.
do people who also say like they believe in these values, how do you follow someone who doesn't actually practice that in their daily?
So you're saying, like, for me, so like I like Trump.
Mm-hmm,
I didn't vote for him,
Yeah.
but I ended up liking him. I like him because he pushes like he's against abortion. He's trying to bring God back, and he's trying to pray, and he's bringing all those things back. So you're saying he's saying those things, but he doesn't really. Is that what you're saying? He doesn't
Yeah.
really practice it? Because my thing is, like, just like with what Sita brought up, like a lot of like the things he's done, his past is shady. But to me, what he's doing for the country right now, I mean, like employment, for instance, is at an all-time low. Like, to me, that's what matters. I don't know if I feel like you're looking for like a perfect candidate who has never done anything. Like, I think every politician has had a dirty past. Maybe not, but I'm just saying, like, do you think you're being too hard on his past, that you expected him to be perfect? Or because where he is, at least for me right now, the economy's good. He's writing, I don't know how he's signing bills or whatever to stop abortion. To me, that's good. But then, like you're talking about the 5 guys that were eventually exonerated. He didn't. What did you said? He ripped out I remember hearing it, but you're holding that. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I just feel like you're holding his past against him a lot. Help me to understand.
Yeah, I think it's like
what,
not
like-
only his past, but like the policies that are in effect now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I understand. I know abortion is a very contentious topic, and the way I approach that topic is like purely from a health perspective as a woman. Like, I truly believe that women should be in charge of that narrative, and why are like men, especially men who have in the past but more recently just disregarded women's rights, or like the way that they approach women and see them as like, you know, objects, as rather than like participating people within like a broader narrative. But I like, it's not only his past, it's like his current dealings and his policies, right? Like, I think that there's a huge gap in what we see as equitable opportunity to you know what I mean? Like, unemployment is down, but like, let's also like, that goes as far back as like the Bush administration, right? So like, we're attributing it to one president because
Well,
it
it
just
was
so
bad
happens.
when Obama was in office.
Yeah, but I mean, like, a lot of the policies that he's put in place, like, the economy may be good, but the way they're framing it, it's good for like big businesses or like people who are making millions of dollars, you know? But like, what about the working class? There's this bigger gap, and like, I just feel like his policies and what he does currently, it's not just his past, but like, I feel like his past influences those now. But I just feel like he's just a rich boy who had a platform and now is like trying to sell a narrative to people who like he has no idea what that life is like, right? Like you've come from a very privileged background. So for you to go into like rural areas and tell people like, oh, like a lot of the things that he's been running on a platform are just untrue, you know? Like coal, like tech is taking over a lot of jobs. So it's like him promising that these jobs are going to come back is like, that is a disservice to a lot of communities, especially like some out here, like the farming that's happening out here. It's like there is a mismatch between what you're saying and then what you're voting for. So that's where I'm saying like I'm not saying like I'm not and I feel like people, I don't like to condemn people for their past actions, but it's like currently right now, what are you doing that like matches with what you're saying? And like I get it, like I totally get it. DC is just like, I dreamed of going and working there, but like I was so disenfranchised by the fact that like you guys are so disconnected from community.
Right.
You know, like what you guys do here has like you guys have no idea what happens on the ground because you guys are so far apart. And like that's with any politics. But I just am so I get so worked up because it's just one of those things like, are we really truly understanding how he's voting? You know, like, or what he's signing into into law, right?
Yeah.
Which then affects a lot of communities. And for me, I just feel like when I was like, make it make sense for me as a Samoans is like a lot of the policies that he signs into law, like because we're the margins of the margins, like it's affected or we're just disregarded, you know? Like it's just like, how do we encompass everyone?
Okay, so yeah, like a lot of us Polynesians, we like the guy because he kind of, he gets it, like, we're religious, the majority of us are religious Christian people. We believe in Jesus Christ. And so I think he kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, there's like a specific word for it, but he's able to kind of catch us there because of that, because we're Christians. And I know, at least speaking for my parents, they like the guy because he's all about God and, you know, he doesn't like abortion, those things that I brought up. But you just brought up a point that we don't really, help me out here, we don't really understand what he's really doing. The way you made it sound is he's kind of packaging what it's not with Christianity or pro-life or what's the other, not pro, he's pro-life. That's what he is. I don't like when I vote for somebody, I'm voting for somebody who I identify with, like somebody that's I don't like abortion. I believe in Jesus Christ. And I don't understand like why any of the outside stuff matters. Like because then you brought up it does affect our community. It does affect our homes. And I don't think we as a Polynesian, like, well, I don't want to say everybody. Maybe it's just me.
No,
and me.
I'm not seeing how that really affects me.
Right. I agree with what you're saying. I think there is a disconnect in a lot of ways between what we see and what's happening, like which we've all agreed on and everything. But what I love is that a lot of what you have to say is based in fact, right? And just in what's actually happening in policies and like the actual changes that affect us here. Because the people that I've talked to too in my own family who have voted for Trump, the first thing they say is we don't really like his persona or that he's rude. We don't really like that, but he champions those values that you said. He's pro-life. He's bringing back prayers in school. He's you know, like, and these are the things that are important to our culture. Yeah, exactly. And but what's so difficult though is politics in general are just so convoluted. Like it's
hard. Like I went to college and I minored in it, but it was like that, and I still struggle to understand like how the whole system sometimes works, or like, oh, how did that come about? And it's like someone has to break it down for me, and I think that's where the disconnect is. It's like there's all this information, and like there's some candidates on both sides when they talk, and I'm like zoning out. I'm like, I don't care. Like, or like it's just like, this is so crazy that like. you're making this so complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, no, and like going back to like the unemployment rates and everything like that, it's also hard to separate the facts from the politics, like because even the facts themselves don't necessarily tell a straightforward story, right? Like,
That's what I was just about to say. Like, there's so much. Everybody talks about it, fake news, or like we're not getting the real. Because like you're bringing up certain things, and I'm just like, I don't even know if I believe that, or I could have read something, and maybe that's not even real. It's so hard these days to like. Everyone's like, well, we need credible sources, or check your sources, or fact check, and it's like. How? Like,
No, and it's so hard. Exactly. Yeah, and I always say, I'm always like, Google and God never failed. But it literally, so that's what's so hard because like tech and like the globalization of like messaging and all that stuff. But like, I thought it was wild. There was a study that came out recently and like across the entire nation, there was a test that was given to high schoolers, and only 14% of high schoolers can tell the difference between an opinion and a fact.
Oh, wow.
And so like, that is our incoming voting, right? That's our incoming voting population. And so for me, it's like, there's a lot of story. Yeah, right? It's worrisome. Yeah, no, it's really worrisome. And it's like worrisome in some senses, but like, I understand a catchy phrase, like a platform that you can, like, I do have to give Trump and his team that credit of how they've been able to like boil down messaging and then, and kind of frame it in a way that like fits the majority, like I don't know, aspirations, but like a lot of the things, and I always tell people, I'm like, just hold, like this is why it's so important to go into like your town halls and like your city elections, because they're the ones who have to implement what the White House is trickling down essentially. But it really is like, there are things that are done and written within like one swoop of the pen, and like that totally affects our community, you know. And I just think about like the PI community here, and like a lot of like not even just nationals, but like 1 out of every 4 Tongans lives here in Salt Lake City, and not all of them are citizens, right? And so like when this whole narrative about like immigration reform and all that stuff, and like kids were being locked up on the border, it's like, I know that the main narrative was concentrated on like the Latin countries, like the Latinx communities and all that stuff, but like because we are vulnerable to that, like we also risk, you know, being sent, like there are people who get or who are at risk of being sent home and never grew up there. So like what does that do to like families, how our families work? It's just, yeah, it's like real life consequences for like what he says on a stage. And that's where I'm just like, I wish we could just like hold him more accountable in certain ways. But yeah.
See, and that right there, and I'm just going to be totally honest, is where I disconnect, because I don't know, I don't feel like it affects, I don't feel like what happens in the White House and trickles down. I think that's where I get disconnected. I don't feel like it affects my home if I'm trying to, and I think that's where it all just kind of falls off. Because I don't, I believe in, I'm sure you guys already know, but I believe in God, and He's the head of my household, and nothing Trump or Obama or whoever can do will really affect that. I think it's more on a personal, like whatever I do will affect my life, and that's where I get disconnected. Like I just
it's because it like, how does this play in the daily? Right. Like, how does this affect me on the daily?
Right. No, and I could appreciate that too. I think I fall a little bit in the same boat in that, if I'm being completely honest, I don't care that much about politics, but I want to. Though.
See, no, but I feel like that's a majority. Like,
but then it's just so hard because, again, we don't see the daily effects. There's not this direct correlation that we can see from this person signing this to the way that my streetlights work. You know what I mean? Like in all of those things, and so it's. I don't know. It's difficult to have these conversations too, because I feel like the people who do care are also so emotional about these things, and personally, and I don't relate to that so much, and I feel like Trump in a lot of ways, like he's very symbolic of a lot of things now, like in different ways to different people. I know people who are like, that is my champion, my guy. He speaks his mind. He's real. He is so unlike all of the others, and he, it's nothing ambiguous about it. You know who he is and what he stands for, and to them, like, he just really personifies like realness and this authenticity.
Speaks his mind.
And then I have other friends who are like, that guy is
Pure evil.
Exactly, pure evil, right? And like every way, shape, or form, and it just like not even like we don't even speak about him in like a human way. And me, just as just like a student at the community college who works full time, I don't really have the opportunity to engage in a lot of these conversations in this way with people who know like the facts. And well, when I do though, I find it so interesting. I really do, and it makes me it lights a fire in me to want to like actually know what's going on. But then, in my everyday life though, I'm very much like I see the impeachment trial next. You know what I mean?
And the thing is I don't mind the guy. I really don't. I didn't want him to get impeached. I for what I do know, which is, after listening to Moana, is nothing.
No, but I have to say, like, I feel like especially like in my family and when I'm talking with like cousins and stuff, it's like, it's almost to be politically involved is a luxury, right? It's like, it's almost like it because we're here on the daily, like, we're working class, like where does, you know what I mean? Like does it really affect me, or does it affect me immediately if I were to participate in these systems?
Right.
And that is where I have a problem, right? Like, aside from candidates like that are up and running for, and we're now going into an election season, is like, why do people feel if you're gonna take, and it all comes back to like, if you're gonna take taxes from us, then we have to be able to influence. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's one of those things. Like, we have a say, and like, I'm just one of those proponents. Like, you can't tax us to fund these things that like only a certain percentage benefit from. And so that's like my whole thing is like, but then again, we're disenfranchised from participating, because it's like, again, but that's my whole family. They're just like, I have so many members who just have never voted. They're like in their like 50s and they've never voted because they don't see any value to it. Which is why that's the problem, right? Like, it's like, where is
I didn't vote.
Right.
I didn't vote
but
why?
But why? Exactly.
I just don't feel like what they do in the White House really affects me.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't vote either. For me though, it's more like, so there, Jordan Peterson, do you know who he is? He's an evolutionary biologist out of Toronto. Like, he's fundamentally a psychologist, and he's a professor out there. He's kind of a controversial figure, whatever. But like, one thing he talks about is like when people, like, one thing that he gets like, I think, criticized for a lot is like when people approach him and ask him, how do we solve these huge social issues, or like, global warming, what can we do as people? His response is always, clean your room. He talks about cleaning your room, and he's like, if you can't manage your own space and know how to organize your own room, what makes you think that you're going to be able to reconfigure these huge, complex social structures, you know what I mean, in ways that will help everybody? And I resonated, like, I don't agree with him on everything if you look him up, but I understand that, and that resonated with me, because that's a lot of the reason why I haven't voted till now. It's because I just feel so uneducated about certain things that I almost feel like it would be a disservice to just check boxes that I don't know. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But I don't know if that's more or less helpful, like, to just like, to the world that we live in. But I like how you said it's a luxury. You know what I mean?
Us telling you that we didn't vote, does that make your skin crawl?
No, because I understand the context from which it comes from. You know, it's like, there are, like, I know that it's a legal right to take work off and go vote. But like, there are people here in Salt Lake City who they would have to catch 2 buses and a train to get there, right? Or like, they would have to like walk, like, they have kids, and like, you're telling me that you're asking a mother to leave her children or to pack them all up to go vote in a system, like in an elementary, when it's like, what is are we communicating the value in that, you know? And it
Because
doesn't make me
if there was if I knew the value for myself of voting, I would pack all my kids up. I would take 2 buses and a train to go and vote.
Yep.
But I don't see the value, and so I'm not going to leave my
no, and it doesn't, and I totally get, and I totally get that, and like that in and of itself, I just feel like is a tactic too sometimes with politicians, not just Republicans, but like it's also like everyone. It's a tactic to be like, well, if we can't get people out, or if we will discourage people from using their right to vote, like then we automatically have the election in the bag, right? And so that for me, it's like, you know, and maybe it stems from the fact that like I don't have that readily available to me. So maybe it's like the grass is greener on the other side. But like I found like I voted when I was 18 and then found out the next election that I couldn't vote because of my status. But it all goes back to the fact that like, well, like is that really, and I don't want to say fair, but is that something that we want to encourage in a future where I want to see my nieces and nephews growing up, is like, we're going to discard you because you actually don't have the ability to participate in the system, you know? Like, I want you to feel valued. I want you're a community member. But yeah, it doesn't make me, because I totally understand. Like, I see it every day of how that happens.
There's a lot of us Polynesians who just like, nah, I'm going to sleep.
I know. And I'm excited because I know, like, this isn't a plug, because I'm like not like, I'm not encouraging either way, but like it's really exciting to be home and see like PIs that are running for office. Like that is so cool for me. Like I think that's just awesome, just to be like, whatever spectrum you fall on, it's just really cool to see a representation and know that someone like maybe not has the same experience, but can at least speak to an experience that is never really like shown on a big platform. So I'm really excited for that. I feel like a lot of
something from you in the future, running?
No. I'm too much trash. Well, because I just feel like I would just be one of those, like, I'm gonna say something, because I'm also like, I don't hold back either. And I just really don't care. I'm not as polished, I think, to run for politics, but we'll see. But there's other ways.
That's what we need,
I know, maybe that's what we need. But no, I'm just, I love it. I view it as a sport, but how do we get more people involved in that way? But it's totally, you're right though.
How do we get more people involved in that way? Or just more credible, reliable information, like more readily available for us to be able to like really engage, you know?
Because I'm gonna be honest, like, there are some people who will watch C-SPAN, they'll like watch the floor to see what happens and like see what bills. I don't do that. I don't even read, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like that. Who has the time? Who has the time to be like, oh, I'm seeing this bill through? Who has the time? But I think I'm very passionate because I see through some of the stuff. And it's not only the 45th, you know, like I see it through a lot of other politicians on both sides, where it's like, dude, what you're saying doesn't match up with how you vote, you know, or like how you decide to pass bills that affects community, you know, and like I was curious to get your opinion, like, because along with abortion, that's a very contentious topic, but it's always in the election series. Is like, how do you feel about the right and the ability to same-sex marriage?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I mean that always comes up. That's another one that always comes up, and it's just like, because it's a voting, because it's an election year, like it's always put in the forefront.
No, that's a good question, and it's okay. So my take on a lot of things is I think in certain ways convoluted itself, just because I as you know, I'm gay, but then I'm also a fully participating active member of the Church of Jesus Christ. So it's like, so I have these two identities that kind of in a lot of ways seem to contradict each other. So when it comes to gay marriage specifically, I can say that I love that everybody, that people are able to express and celebrate their loves in ways that they want to. You know what I mean? I will also say that back in, when was it? initially when it was trying to be passed in California. I was in high school at the time.
2008 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they went to the LA temple and they were like protesting and then the
there.
Tongans over there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So I would have been 17.
I totally don't. Yeah, I totally.
Yeah, that was crazy. Do you remember that?
They were like beating people up.
Oh, what? I totally didn't even know
Christian,
this.
and then they started beating everyone.
Oh, shoot.
Protesters outside
Okay.
of the LA temple.
Yeah.
And then the Polynesians came, the Tongans, who have no kind of attacked, right? And are just like tearing it down and like.
Oh, yeah. They're just like, okay.
You know what I mean? And things like that.
I had no idea.
And right, but so I did go ahead, and I remember passing. What's crazy? Prop 8 was at the time.
That's right.
That was the time. Yep.
Yeah, to keep the
Families,
definition
the more
of
traditional.
marriage. Yeah, traditional. And I remember going door to door with my mom and my family for Prop 8.
That's
Isn't that, it's funny. And it's I don't know, when it comes to gay marriage and just that whole, I personally celebrate everybody's love, and I love that people are able to do it in that way. But even that, as much as it might seem relevant to me, was not something that like lit a fire hot enough for me to be like, I'm gonna go and do
champion. I'm gonna be the face of
Give
this
me that
movement.
I don't know.
I
They have
know.
screens now. I don't know.
I know.
But like, so even then, like, I mean, my the way that I view gay marriage and everything, I mean, we can talk about that like later on when we have
It
that
will be.
episode.
Yeah,
it will
It will be a topic.
And I hope
but
you
I mean,
you bring it all out.
but I will say that I love same-sex couples and marriage and all of that, and I love that they're able to do that. But I also, again, it wasn't something that I felt like I needed to go and either stop or make happen, like it whichever way. And so I. Sorry. Were you saying?
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I have like an itch in my throat and I'm trying
Oh,
not to.
okay.
Excuse me, I have.
No, but after this conversation,
Yeah.
well, it's it's about Trump.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? I know you still dislike him very much. That's fine.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Trump?
I think again, I didn't feel very strongly really one way or the other. I still feel like I'm about in the same place I was, which is I'm just very aware of how much there is for me to kind of learn and like dive into. But I definitely have more of a desire to look into it after this conversation.
See, and that's just so crazy because I do I want to say I love Trump? Do I love Trump? I don't.
Okay, speak your truth. Speak your truth.
Because I wasn't really happy with after he was acquitted, and then they had like a breakfast after, and he just spent that whole hour like talking about nonsense.
Yeah.
I don't know if
so on brand for him though.
Yeah. But I'm saying like I don't necessarily like. I guess at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate that we didn't have a more like Trump person in this conversation to battle it out with Juana.
Not even battle it out. I just I'm always open.
That I just like flaw. I'm like, it's not that I don't care. It's that I just don't feel like it has enough to make me change anything for my household.
Right.
And so I guess I don't know if it's people will come for me for this and say I'm doing a disservice to my children because I don't teach them more about politics. I only go off of what I see. The rest kind of just blurs out for me. I don't care at this point, like to hate the guy. I don't hate him. I don't mind him at all. He's a Twitter. Like everybody hates him on Twitter, and I don't.
Get off the bird. Just kidding. Me.
Right, but I don't necessarily think. I think Moana has educated me a little bit more. Like there is a definite disconnect, and I think there's a disconnect because I just don't care. Like,
But that's,
you know what I mean?
but
And I'm
that,
not even trying to like.
no, I feel
I'm
it.
not trying to like water it down because I know it's a big issue, and I know there's people out there that are like, "What the heck? Stand up for our president.
Yeah.
He is my president." But I just, I don't know. I just,
Tiring.
100%.
he's
Yeah.
not
real.
my actual
That is real.
president.
Yeah, like-
I have another.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I totally get that. Like, that is not the hill I want to die on. You know,
Yeah,
like maybe
right.
and that's a very common. But I really love, because this is the first time that I have been able to have a conversation openly without it being so
Yeah.
like
I think it's
contentious,
just- yeah.
you know, and like,
Yeah.
but that's the thing is like the understanding of people have their own opinion,
Yeah.
and they're entitled to that opinion. I
Yeah.
think it's like we're in this climate of like people are just like all gas no brakes when it's
Yeah.
like, yo, let's start off like
But that's
10
the-
miles per hour and
that's
like
the
let's
thing,
go
though,
into
'cause-
it. Yeah.
Because luckily for us, at least, you're not one of those people like, how do you guys not care about these issues? Why don't you, like, you're not forceful either. If
Yeah,
that, like,
yeah. Right.
I mean, maybe you would have been if you had a different, I don't know. I feel
But
bad
see,
that we
those people
didn't-
are so like, I don't like when people do that because then it makes people not want to participate at
Right.
all, right?
Right,
Like
that's so
it's
awesome.
this exchange
Right,
and
right,
it's
right.
like, but it's a conversation. It's
Right.
not a
Yeah.
one-sided. And like, I love that you guys like, I'm educated, but like, I hope you guys know it's the same way on this side. Like, you guys have provided so much information for me
Yeah.
to like see how, like, because that is the common narrative,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
is, and I understand that
Yeah.
too, because all my cousins are like, oh, okay, here she goes again. And I'm just like, hey, but like, I really love the ability to talk openly and then support each other
Yeah.
in that way, like
And still
to
be different
understand,
and-
yeah,
yeah,
to
right.
understand
Still
that
come
like,
together and-
hey, you know, like we may be on different, or on the spectrum, like we're all on different points in a spectrum. But as long
Right.
as we can respect each other,
That's what counts.
you know what I mean? Like the
That
whole
is
going back to
exactly-
cleaning your room is like
Yeah.
everyone can clean their room, right?
Right.
How you decide to clean that room?
Yeah,
right.
And the reality too is that it's not, it's a complicated thing too. It's not an
Right.
easy thing, right?
Yeah.
You have to figure out what you want to do, the function of that room, how you're gonna make a space conducive to doing those things.
Yeah.
Like, you have to put in thought to do that.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And I love this this conversation as well, and just the connection that we all have.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys would agree with me about this, but I think that it's cultural a little bit. Like Polynesians, like we know how to talk, we know how to like
Yeah.
connect.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Would you
I agree.
say so?
I agree, and I also think like, at least for Moana, you know, you have all this education in this field, and I didn't really bring anything, but I feel like you almost understand that because that's a lot of that's
you
a lot
did.
that
Yeah,
just
yeah.
bring that's just a lot of us. I don't know. Maybe other Polynesians will come out and start yelling like, no, we don't all think like you. But I'm just saying, for the most part, I don't know. For those who I've interacted with, we all kind of, and because of that, we are a little bit more understanding. I don't know if it would have been the same if we had a different culture.
Yeah. But, and I love when people take me to task because it's one of those things like, I may have been trained and educated in this, but that's only one aspect, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't like when people are like, oh, she's right. And it's like, no.
They're gonna be like, "Yeah,
I could be just as
you're
problematic. Yeah, like, it's just like, I love the conversation.
I
And, like,
love it.
yeah.
I hope you guys love this as
Yes.
much as we did. This has been
And this
so-
is just the beginning.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
the first episode, so you guys are in for it. If you guys want to come for any of us,
Do so down below.
Yeah. I know. Show us some love. No love, log off. Just kidding. No, but.
Love or no love. Let us hear your thoughts.
yes.
And
so-
yeah.
And tune
let's
in
get
next week
talking.
for Visible Voices.
Yeah.